Folks, welcome back to my channel. It's Spice86 here. You can find me on TikTok, Spiel, and the Sims 4 Gallery as Spice86, and of course here on the YouTubes. So we're back with another CAS Wednesday. We're catching up on content. I made this a while back after I got the Enchanted by Nature pack. This is the last major DLC that I bought from the Sims 4 since my pivot. So I made a little pivot and shift in how I want to do content. But I also want to take this cast video to talk about the Puff Daddy documentary, or aka 50 Cent's hateration, holleration in this dancery video. While also talking about what we're creating here. So of course, because we got the fairy pack, I'm calling it the fairy pack, we were like, yeah, we need to make black fairies. And so I went down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out, let's do some black fairies. You know what I mean? Let's make some weird little creatures. But I digress. Let's talk about this documentary that has everybody in the chokehold. I mean, everybody has watched it. I think so. Here are my key takeaways. My first takeaway is wow. So this nigga really out here murdered Tupac and Biggie. And then two, it's like I kind of felt sad for him a little bit because it sounded like he was part. And here's the thing: I've always speculated that Puff Daddy is most likely bisexual. And I really wish that, particularly in the black community, that bisexuality, but in general, bisexuality, especially amongst men, was taken more seriously, and that we would have, like, not this kind of internal battle, but also the fact that you suffer abuse and then you become the abuser. Because the documentary does talk a little bit about how his mother and his father, like, legacy of him being kind of like one of Bumpy's men, and like gangster lifestyle and like being a part of the streets and all that shit, kind of like created who he was going to be, right? And, my third takeaway was that how he treated women was just terrible. He treated women like trophies. I don't think he's ever really seen women as human beings. I think he just sees them as objects, as things that he can use and abuse. Like, I don't think he's actually cares for women or love women or see women as value. And that really is disturbing to me because he has girls. Infamously, the twin girls that he had with Kim Porter. All right. And then my last takeaway from this entire situation is how deeply narcissistic and insecure he is. Because my man literally had an entire film crew follow him around leading up to him getting arrested for the trafficking in RICO case that he later got convicted for some of the charges, but not all of the charges, which is disappointing because I look at this documentary, especially because they got some actual juries to testify, and I wonder if they watch this and really think about how they kind of let him off on some of the more serious charges of human trafficking. But I also knew that that was a bit of a stretch when they did do that particular charge for him. So now, what we're doing in this video, because I'm going to go back to this video, we're really getting into the finer details and whatnot. I also really wanted to make some baby hairs, and so because there wasn't any green baby hairs on the gallery, so that's what you saw earlier. And so, like, we're using the tool from the Business and Hobby Tattoos to make some baby hairs. And I was like, you know what, I was feeling good about that. And so I actually put it up on the gallery as green baby hairs, and then we kind of go through the different styles to see what we wanted to create, because I wanted like an earthy, natural type of fairy. And then I started thinking, like, I want a good fairy and a bad fairy, so we do get into eventually making her twin. So And of course, like they're ethereal, so they're gonna be covered in markings and magical markings and all that jazz. And so yeah. But I digress. So let's examine the Tupac and Biggie situation. Particularly, so Biggie to me, I feel like in terms of documentary, right? In terms of evidence and how the documentary, because we all saw Tiger King during the 2020, and we basically deduced that Carol killed her husband, right? And it was pretty well like presented how the evidence and everything was like shaping up, and it became cut clear that basically Carol killed her husband. However, with the Biggie and the Tupac situation, I feel like Biggie's situation feels a bit thinner in my opinion. However, there's clearly some like type of nefarious actions going on there. And I'm not sure if he necessarily set him up or he knew that if he knew how precarious the situation is and how it could potentially turn deadly, right? Because there's two things from the Biggie situation that I take away. One, he canceled the London press junket, even though they were only supposed to be in LA for one day. Biggie already got a warning before he even went out to LA, which was in front of Puff Daddy. So he knew that there was potential, you know, animosity there, especially after Tupac died. And especially because word on the street is that Puff Daddy was a part of it. What we don't get in the documentary, which I think is also crucial, is how Biggie felt about that. Because at the end of the day, street niggas is always street niggas, and street niggas have their ear to the street at all times. So, like, that was very much a street knowledge thing that Puff Daddy put a hit out on Tupac. And Tupac and Biggie, for the most part, were friends up until that incident that happened in the fucking studio about almost a year before Tupac was successfully assassinated, right? So, what I find is really interesting is the timing of the whole situation, how he dealt with it, and how my man really did go out his way to usurp some type of power dynamic, right? So I'm not fully convinced that he purposely set up Biggie to die, but I also do not think that he is without blame or actual merit into that. And we'll get further into that, but I want to back up into the Tupac situation. So for Tupac, there's clear evidence. You got the dude literally laying it out. You got the middleman that we know is the middleman. We got actual documented evidence from the finances for him purchasing all those cars and then driving all the way over, right? And then here's the reason why he has been prosecuted is because you can't, like, you have to trace the money. So like the money came out, but then the money went to one person, but it didn't go to the it went through the middleman person, but the middleman person didn't make good on the deal. So therefore you can't really prove an actuality if the conspiracy to hire to commit murder happened. However, nigga was also bragging on the songs, and that was crazy, right? And I'm just like, I'm so disturbed on many levels in the sense that you really did kill Tupac for what? You know what I mean? For absolutely nothing, quite frankly, in the grand scheme of it all. Then the Biggie situation. What bothers me about the Biggie situation is how you set him up, how you did not ride in the same car with him, and how you also charged this nigga's funeral to his legacy contract, and then you also tried to change terms of his contract. The co-founder of Bad Boy was definitely the most important person you needed in that documentary, but he also really highlighted deeply how fucked up Puff Daddy is in his way of just being abusive and like being narcissistic. And this is why like Donald Trump loves him, right? Because they're one and the same fucking coin. It's insane to me. I'm like, you have so much power, so much money, and instead of you doing actual good work, you rather continue to do evil work. Like he never paid any of his artists. And I remember Craig Mack. And I was actually disappointed that Craig Mack didn't have a bigger career. And you know what's so sad? We find out in the documentary that he was supposed to go to Death Row. And I feel like that would have been a boss ass move if he had went to Death Row. And I feel like it would have been super awesome. And it would have elevated Craig Mack to a level that probably still to this day would have been irrelevant. So he actually would have probably been a good conversation fodder, and not us just thinking about Tupac and Biggie. You know what I mean? There were also good MCs out there. However, this is sad to see, right? And then in the documentary, we get into the pathology of Puff Daddy's use of women and how he uses women, right? How he very much, basically was stealing everybody's woman for the simple fact that he could. And what's sad is that I'm pretty sure he's a charming motherfucker, because that's what like people have said, like he's charming, he's like he pokes you and everything like that, he also courts you and all this shit, and like he has a whole bunch of money and like things of that nature. And it's really sad, because if any of those women just stood 10 toes down and said, no, I'm not gonna fuck with this nigga, but they also, nobody said the truth out loud, and I feel that that was such a disservice, right? So I'm gonna pop back over so we can talk about particularly this video right now, because we are fleshing out the rest of Tierra Diggs' outfits, and we do eventually give Tierra a middle name, so to speak, or a nickname, I should say. We call her Tink. So the reason why I wanted to talk about the Puff Daddy, particularly with this video, is because I was inspired to create these fairies, but I wanted them to be definitely kind of hip hop, ghetto fab inspired type of fairies, right? So she definitely is giving me Trina, Little Kim type of vibes, where she's sexy but she's earthy at the same time. Very given Mona Leo really too, right? And so that's what I really wanted to like give her, that type of essence where she's sexy but she's earthy, right? And then for her brother, who is Tyrone Diggs, for Tyrone, we really went and modeled him after a couple rappers. Kendrick being a big influence there, a little bit of Drake, which you'll see in like his former wear, and honestly a little T-Pain. I really was like trying to lean into kind of that rapper type aesthetic, and give that whole entire vibe, right? So now bouncing back to the Puff Daddy conversation, particularly with the documentary, and fleshing out kind of his women's objects. So because he had basically been beaten, and this is all speculation from a psychological perspective, and I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychiatric professional. So like this is all just my opinion based off of working in the sociology field for a few years, and I studied like criminology and things of that nature, right? So based off of that, and this is also just me as a nigga talking shit as well, so we also have to keep that in mind. But based off of like his background, and especially how the documentary kind of portrayed him, and I think like what I liked about this documentary, and I liked about the documentary that the girl Dream did for R. Kelly, Surviving R. Kelly, is the almost humanizing the villain, in a sense, really showing that these people are abused and hurt people who, instead of getting help, instead of really dealing with those demons, that they continue the cycle of abuse, right? And so this is the same thing with Puff Daddy. They explicitly go into the fact that like he had basically been beaten, he had basically been like forced to kind of grow up a lot earlier, and God only knows what other things he had been exposed to as a young man. And we also have to keep in mind, like, he got into the industry when he was like 19 years old. Like, he was very young, and he very much was trying to be a performer and entertainer, and he really didn't have a ton of talent. And I think that that really is a struggle for someone who wants to be creative but can't be creative in that way. I also find it fascinating because he was a good dancer, but he just wanted to be a rapper. He wanted to make music. And I do think, like, as a producer, as a person behind the scene, he has talent there, but he wasn't content. I don't know. I don't know what it is about producers needing to be out in front, because Timberland did the same thing, Kanye did the same thing. But the difference between them is that they were able to make it work for them and their fodder. And I feel like Puff didn't necessarily take the craft serious enough. You know what I mean? So this is the outfit that's very much inspired. That outfit was very much inspired by T-Pain. So it was like a very hipster type of vibe, right? But I say all that to say is that my man really just out here abused women, and the women kind of stuck by him, and I kind of feel like we have to, like, I'm not going to blame women for abuse because no person deserves to be abused, but I also feel like how many women that he has gone through that nobody talked about it, nobody warned him. Like, the Epstein thing, people warned you. You know what I mean? Courtney Love literally said point blank, don't go and meet this nigga in a hotel because he will try to fucking rape you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's fascinating. It's sad, all in the same sense. And I feel bad for Cassie because, like, me and Cassie are basically almost like the same fucking age. And I remember when Cassie hit on the scene, and I also remember feeling really icky about the fact that she was 19 and he was like damn near 30, right? So this right now is kind of like the wrap up of going through the final outfits. Like, we get to see like his everyday outfits. This is his Drake inspired outfit, his sportswear outfit, and so on and so forth. So let me wrap up my final thoughts about the whole Puff Daddy documentary. I felt that it was very eye opening, very crucial in the court of public opinion. And at the end of the day, 50 Cent is one petty, hilarious motherfucker. And it's sad because 50 is also problematic as fuck. Like, I'm not gonna sit up here and say, oh, I root for 50. Like, 50 has never been my favorite rapper. Like, I know two bops by 50 Cent, and that's it. Like, I know more about him being messy and petty and just out here in the streets, rather than for his actual music and those things. What I will say is that nigga came up. He got shot 9 times. He became basically a mogul. I think he is what Puff wants to be real bad. And honestly, because I think Puff Daddy turned out his baby mom is the reason why he's going this hard with this documentary. So I definitely recommend watching it. It is very much entertaining and very sad, but it also takes you back to a very nostalgic time, and gives you a deeper, more darker version of what's going on. And if you know a lot about, like, we get this glimpse from Puff Daddy's view, but you should read up about Mace, you should read about Faith Evans and her shit during that time, as well as Little Kim. Little Kim, I feel like, had the saddest story, in my opinion, during that time, especially with Biggie and her relationships and so on and so forth. But yeah, so this is my fairies. We got Tierra Tink Diggs and Tyrone Tink Diggs. They are on the gallery under my ID, which is Spikes86, which you can see here. We do give them a little description. Unfortunately, they do not have any skills, but they'll go in there. They're night and day, light and dark, if you would speak. So, Tyrone is our dark skin. He's our he's our dark fairy sin. He is our fuck boy for show. And then we have Tierra Tink, who is our sweetheart girl, but she, has a lot of sex appeal. She's very earthy, very ethereal, right? But I hope that you do download them. If you do, please tag me. I would love to know what storylines you come up with working with these two twins and how they evolve. I'll probably do like my own little let's play with them. I just haven't decided what I want to do. But until next time, please subscribe, like, comment, and put on that notification bell.